Hello, you beautiful humans. Welcome back to my unfiltered diary. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm an independent girl in my early 20s. On this podcast, I share my very best advice, my personal journey, life experiences, and some juicy stories. I'll probably go off topic every 5 minutes. I'd probably say it's a short episode when I make it an hour and a half, and I'll probably say I've spoke too much and it ends up being 40 minutes long. I can't help myself. I'm sorry about that. How are you feeling today? I'm feeling pretty positive. This week's been very busy, for sure. All at the same time, I feel like I've sort of lost track of time a lot. Like I always really hope that there's more time in the day. Like I don't have enough time in the day to do everything I want. Do you know what I mean? This week I actually got back into the routine of going weekly shopping. I love how I give everybody advice on this podcast. Like in the first 3 episodes, I'm like, here's how to live on your own. Here's how to do your weekly shop. Here's how to sort your bills out. And honestly, coaches just don't play sometimes, you know? Like sometimes I don't take my own advice and my life feels like I'm just losing the plot a bit. But I give the advice so that when I do these things and I do actually take my own advice, I feel really good. It's just, you can't be perfect every single day and you can't be doing everything you're supposed to do all the time. Like, changes happen, okay? Don't shoot me. Also, some extra positivity for the week. I sold 3 items. So I got, not 3 items. I sold 3 parcels from my small business recently. And I'm quite surprised, actually, because I haven't had much time to put more effort into it. Like last year I had so much time, I threw it all into the small business, and this week I had 3 parcels to send out. Sold 4 different candles, and then 2 of the other parcels had, probably hear me itching my leg. Sorry, that's so cringy. I don't know why I redid that. Anyway, the 2 other parcels contained these backflow incense cones I sell as well. So that's very exciting. But yeah, if you're not already following it, go follow at Burn My Mood on Instagram and Facebook, because I don't know what it is with Facebook, but that is a very hard place to get recognised. Instagram isn't as hard. You just post some funny stuff and sometimes people follow you. And it's like, oh, or you post meaningful stuff, obviously, but you just have to reflect your own personality. And I feel like that's really good advice for anybody who's doing anything creative, or anybody that's trying to pursue something. People buy from people, so you need to put your personality out there and your opinions. Don't be afraid to have a different opinion to someone, but you'll thank me later. If you just act like a robot, everyone will know you're trying to sell to them. So don't be a robot. Yeah, that's a TED talk on that. Even more exciting news. Alex remained in the top charts, UK top 40 charts on Radio 1 this week. On Friday, his tune's been played multiple times. Today, I was driving up this car park and all of a sudden it goes, and this is Vibe Chemistry, Ballin'. I'm like, what? Trying to ring him, and I can't work out whether I've got signal or not because I'm driving and I'm not even actually looking at my phone. I'm just literally call Alex, and it's just fucking not just going straight to voicemail, and I'm like, this guy is not answering the phone. Is that the fucking streets calling me? Alright, I'm joking. I wouldn't do that. But yeah, I'm very proud of him. It's also very exciting. He had so many shows this week. Whew. So Friday was another double gig. I don't know what it is, and call me selfish, but I find them so hard. It's so exciting when he's actually performing, but it's the hours in between. I'm like, oh my God, this is hard work. The guy is very committed, I must admit. 2 shows in one night is alright, yeah, but 3 hours away, I'm like, oh my God, I need a Red Bull, you know? I mean, to be fair, last time I did it, I found it so much harder because I was so tired. But this time wasn't too bad, actually. I only stopped once to do some star jumps. Yeah, look at that. Getting used to it. Night owl. Is that what you call it? I don't know. Yeah, so his first show was in Wellingborough. I know. I didn't even fucking know there was a shop there, let alone a nightclub. But it was actually pretty good. I liked it. Interesting venue. There was like 2 rooms, and like one of the rooms had like, what do you call them? Like tapestries that hanging up. I just think it's really pretty. But the venue itself was really good. I think where I've stayed sober for quite a few shows now, some of the venues speakers are just ridiculously loud. And this week, when Alex does his set, he takes his ear protectors out. To anybody out there who thinks, why would I wear ear protectors? Because that's what I used to think. Well, funnily enough, I put them in and my eardrums stopped flapping. So, I mean, it must be doing something. It doesn't hurt. And you can hear people talking, but it quiets the music down. Now that is some magic. But anyway, that's what I recommend. So I wore the earbuds during his sets. And like sometimes when it sounded different, I'd take the earbud out and be like, oh no, that's just the earbud. And it actually like protects your ears so much. It's really good. Yeah. Anyway, not relevant. So after Wellingborough, he had a really good set in Wellingborough. We went up to Sheffield, and that was a really, really good set too. I mean, it was more of like a jump up drum and bass crowd. I walked in and I felt like I was tripping because just the venue was like this warehouse with like psychedelic paintings everywhere. Well, I am exaggerating, I must admit, but it was a funky venue. I liked it. It was really cool. But I did feel like I was on drugs and I was stone cold sober. So sometimes, that's what I mean, guys. Your environment can affect you, you know? That was a very weird comparison, but I've said it before. Sorry if you can hear me scratching. I have fucking eczema. On Saturday night, Alex had a show in Leighton Buzzard. Leighton Buzzard is not far from us, and to be honest, I've worked in a shop there before. I did not know they had nightclubs, so that was a new one. Although, I'm not gonna lie, it was a weird one. So we get there, and it's a fucking takeaway, like a chicken shop, but they've just emptied all the tables out and had a rave in there. And I thought, this feels like a squat rave, but it had security and the windows weren't blinded down. So I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Alex was headlining, so that was really exciting. But, you know, a few things went a bit wrong. Not really my place to air that out, actually. But he did fall through the stage, which was really interesting. That's a new one. So, if anybody listens, that DJs, I'm just saying, make sure the stage is not a plank of wood balancing with 1 centimetre leeway, you know? You will probably hurt yourself. But yeah, that was exciting. So, like, you'd go upstairs and it was like happy hardcore, and then downstairs was drum and bass. And I was like, well, this is interesting. But yeah, it was a weird one. But on the same night that he did this show, can you believe it? So my boyfriend hasn't actually met my male best friend from like, we've been best friends since we were like 8 years old. And he obviously knows it's important to me that they are friends and they get on and stuff, because both of them will always be a part of my life. And because I've not got round to or made time, because he doesn't live nearby anymore, he actually went and picked him up and surprised me. How fucking cute is that? That is fucking cute. What the hell? Talk about maturity. I'm just saying, like, if you've ever been with someone toxic before, just think, if you told a toxic person in your life previously, oh, I want you to meet my best friend, like it's important to me, and they're a guy, they'd just be like, oh, why? Make you feel bad about having a friend that's a boy, like they weren't your friend first. You know what I mean? Ugh. Growth. Being an adult is interesting. I fucking love it. Sometimes. Sometimes I love it. Sometimes I think, I don't want to pay my fucking bills today. And then I'm like, oh wait, I fucking have to. But yeah, that's something I was ecstatic about. I haven't seen him for a really long time. And the fact that Alex surprised me with it was absolutely fucking adorable. What a guy. What a man. What else have I done this week? Well, worked, obviously. Very, very fun, to be fair. It is alright, actually. I like it. Working 4 days a week and still taking like a week's wage. I'm happy with it, you know? It's all good. It's all fine and dandy. But because I did my weekly food shop, I've actually been cooking again. I know. You thought I all cooked all the time. Actually, Alex is master chef of the house. He knows I get very hangry. And he likes to treat me, which is really nice. But on Sunday, I cooked a roast. So this made me look like a good person again. I cooked us a roast. And he loved it, I think. And it was fucking banging. So, yeah. And then today, I just couldn't be asked for a proper dinner. I come home a bit early. And he was already cooking some snacks. And I was like, oh, chuck my chicken nuggets in. But his food was already cooked before he put my nuggets in. And he turned the oven off. And I was like, did you just turn the oven off? And he was like, oh yeah, sorry, put it back on. And then when I was taking them out the oven, it said 170. And I'm thinking, oh, if I bite into them and they're pink. Because I couldn't tell how long they'd been in for on that temperature, you know? Like, what if I just accidentally knocked it or something? I don't know. But no, bit into it, pink. Can't reheat it because they're chicken nuggets and they're already cooked on the outside to perfection. Just not the inside because they're on the wrong fucking temperature. And you have to cook chicken at least 200 degrees, otherwise you get salmonella. So, yeah. To be fair, I ate one of them because I was really, really hungry. But I ate whole garlic bread, so it's fine. Also, Alex has a show at the end. Well, not a show, like a real big show in Barcelona next month. And the only way I can go, because Spain, don't know what they're playing at, but you can only be vaccinated to go, or you have to say you've had COVID in 6 months on a PCR test. Like, when I had COVID within the last 6 months, I did a lateral flow. I clearly couldn't go to work for at least a day. And I was like, well, I've got COVID. You know, it tested positive. So I ordered a PCR, but I thought, well, there's no fucking point leaving the house because at that time you weren't allowed to leave the house if you had COVID. So how could I post the PCR and go back to work within the same 2 weeks? You just couldn't, could you? So that one, I never posted it. I was just like, well, I've got it. I'll just wait 2 weeks and go back. But yeah, that means I don't have any record of natural immunity. So I may have to figure something out. I don't know. I'm not getting vaccinated though. So, yeah. Don't think anybody wants to know about that. But I'm alright, actually. I'm alright. Maybe approve the fucking vaccine before I stick it into my fucking body. Thank you very much. Anyways. So Spain actually was like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to let all the unvax come in. And then within 24 hours, they were like, kidding. Like, it must have been the April Fool's joke just a couple of days late or something. I'm not sure. But what the fuck was that about Spain? People booked flights in that time, you know? Well, I was going to, but I didn't. Because I thought, what if I manifested that? Oh, shit. Anyway, I'm not taking blame for that. So, today's quote of the day, I can't think of anything witty or inspirational right now, so I'm just going to say eat more French fries because I'm actually still hungry. I wonder whose fault that is. Today's topic of the day, I'll be discussing my best knowledge and advice in regards to learning how to drive, driving, and everything that entails it. I know many people have been trying to learn how to drive since the pandemic, and, all these tests are miles apart, and some people have told me that it could take a year to get a driving lesson if you don't get the app that makes it cheaper. But anyway, I thought in today's podcast, I would highlight some advice of mine since I took the most expensive way to learn how to drive. So, here goes nothing. So, to learn how to drive, you need to get a provisional license. You send off documents to the DVLA. You apply for a driving license, giving all of your details. So that will be your full name, date of birth, and address. I believe you might actually have to send a copy of your birth certificate as like proof of identification. Something really good to note as well is that if you are really raring to go when it comes to getting your driving license, you want to be giving these documents out when you're like 16, because then this way, when it comes to you turning 17, you can start learning to drive straight away. What they don't tell you is that you can't actually take any tests until you're 17. This is in the UK, by the way. So, I mean, since I passed my test when I was 18, so that's nearly 6 years ago. Things might have changed, but I know that they're not going to be hugely different to what I did back then. They all stay quite similar. So, and also, a friend of mine and my sister is going through learning how to drive. So, I know that, anything I can double check, I can check with them. So, once you've applied for your driving license, something they don't tell you is that you can actually learn how to drive, the practical side of it and the theory side of it before you are 17. You can only use, the apps to learn and the books for the theory side of it, and then the practical side of it, you want to be getting learner's insurance on a car. All I know is that you have to be All I know is you have to be occupied by someone over the age of 21 with 3 years driving experience. Something really good to note is that if you live with someone who has some spare time, doing, a 2-hour journey is really good driving practice. The best thing to learn how to drive is just keep practicing. A lot of the things will become second nature. Learning road signs is really important, and as far as I'm aware, I think this came out the year after I passed my test, that they were bringing in sat-nav driving. So maybe using a sat-nav and learning directions taken from a sat-nav is something that you should practice, just because I'm pretty sure you have to use it in your test now. When I started learning how to drive, I got a block of 10 lessons. I can't remember who I got them with. All I do know is that you will find, if you're unlucky like me, quite a few driving instructors that might mug you off. So, especially if you have absolutely zero driving experience. Not everybody is privileged when it comes to being able to have a car early, or having or having learner's insurance on a car with someone that's willing to occupy you and teach you as you drive, because the idea is that they're actually supervising you, because you can't do it on your own when you only have a learner's insurance and learner's license. So what you want to be doing is, doing a trial lesson. A lot of driving instructors offer this. A lot of them will say, your first lesson's free. So if you get a chance to just get someone to run through what clutch control feels like and the basic motions to get a car going, that is a huge step into learning how to drive. When I learned how to drive, I had zero experience. Okay, I mean, maybe when I was a kid, I sat on someone's lap and had a little, thought I pretended to drive, but realistically, I had no real driving experience. So I was pretty vulnerable to be driving in circles in a car park, basically. For 10 hours, well, I think it was 7 or 8 actually, I drove round in circles in a car park in an industrial estate, and I made absolutely zero progress. I was in a brand new BMW series, and it was a start-stop car, so it, even though I was learning manual, it didn't bloody feel like it. It felt like I was just driving, and it was so smooth, I couldn't tell how fast I was going. Like, me personally, I like to feel like I actually understand that I'm in control and understanding the car and stuff like that. And that might sound weird to some people who already understand how to drive, but when I was completely foreign to it, it was something that I knew that I wanted to learn. I'd watch YouTube videos where people would say, you need to feel the car, like you feel the bite of the clutch and all this. And I had absolutely no idea what they were talking about. So when it came to learning in this BMW, I could not feel shit. Anyway, once I changed driving instructor, the last one had actually stood me up on one of my last couple lessons. So, he kept the money and I just scrapped it, got a new one. This driving instructor, I don't think I had more than 1 or 2 lessons with them. I just think that they were really booked, so I couldn't have a lesson every week. And, I don't think that person in particular was trying to mock me off. They just were too busy. They could only give me a lesson every fortnight. I was, more motivated to do more than that. I wanted to get my test done, and I felt like practicing driving while trying to pass my theory was going to be better for me. Something to note as well is once you do pass your theory test, you have 2 years to pass your driving test. Otherwise, you have to redo your theory. So make sure that you have some driving experience once you have decided to take your theory test, because then once you pass it, it's way more motivating to pass it. And if you fail, you've still got, almost 2 years to pass. When I looked for a new driving instructor, I actually went through a driving instructor that taught many people that I had learnt from. So I went with a company called Streetwise MK. They were a small family-owned business. I think it was just a husband and his wife. I learnt with him for, about 6 months. And, every issue I would have, like when I was doing manoeuvres, I'm quite a petite gal. So when I was doing manoeuvres and I wanted to, he would say, you need to exaggerate more. You need to, show the examiner as such. I can't remember what they're called. You need to show the examiner that you can actually see all of the blind spots in the car and that you're doing a full car check. So when that was expected of me, I'm trying to turn around. I can't even see behind the driver's seat. And when I told him that, he was like, I really wish you would have said that earlier. Like, it's not an uncommon thing. And he brought me a pillow for my next lesson. And I sat on this pillow, and oh my goodness, don't laugh, but I still drive with a pillow. I don't know why. I think it's just habit, but I just feel like I can see everything better. Okay? And being able to see everything improved my driving massively, which was crazy to me. Something really nice was that I actually got on really well with this driving instructor. So, he ended up knowing me well. We would talk about friends that he had taught of mine and just general life, really. He, never made me stay in a car park, He only took me, I think, to an industrial estate to learn to emergency stop. And other than that, I drove around most of MK. MK, to people that don't know, that's just abbreviation of Milton Keynes. And then he would take me where the test routes where they could be, and we would just run through those areas. Unfortunately, about 2 or 1 day before my test, my driving instructor was like, I don't think you're ready. And I'm sorry. That put this huge doubt on my head. And I just felt like I wasn't going to be ready for this test, even though I knew I was. I was just really upset with the comment that was made. And yeah, I just felt like it was a bad omen, if anybody believes in those. Anyway, when it got to me doing my test, the first time was terrifying. I got there and it just felt like I was in a hospital. Like you just sat in this waiting room waiting for someone to pull you out and you've got to sit in a car with a stranger. That is definitely something that feels illegal but isn't. You just sat with a total stranger I mean, most of the people there that were examiners were like definitely over 50. Just feels wrong. But anyway, I'm in the car, I'm driving, everything's going well, and then I pull up to this roundabout. You know, I stop, no cars. Me, I know to over-exaggerate, I know how to drive. I've been driving for about a year now, so I knew I was okay. I go to pull out, and this is like a double roundabout, right? And some car that flew over the first one, that enabled me to go, then, did a U-turn on the second roundabout, and by the time I'd pulled off and got onto the roundabout, I had to emergency stop because he came back round and, like, flying through my roundabout. Obviously, me being paranoid, I looked at what the examiner was writing down, and he wrote down major, and I was fucking fuming. I was so mad. Oh my god, I can't even explain how fucking mad I was. I was that pissed off that I was just full of rage, and I just started ignoring him, right? He's telling me, do this, that, and that, and I'm just like, nah. I'm just driving back to the test centre. What's the point in finishing the test if you're going to write down a major? There's literally no point. I failed. Any majors you get, you fail. So I believe you can have up to like 16... Oh, don't quote me on that. I think it's something like 17 or 16 minors, then you can fail, or you get one major and you fail. My argument was that I saved the guy's life because I emergency stopped when the other car was being a dickhead. That little Suzuki Swift in blue. I won't forget it. Ruined my day. Anyway, so we get back to the test centre, me having a strop. I just drove there like a twat because I was fucking fuming. You know, I'm a very confident driver. Even when I was learning, I was quite confident. I think the only time I wasn't that confident at driving is when I hadn't drove for over a year. I just bought a car, started driving. Oh, this is way after I passed my test. But anyway, back to the story. So I get back to the test centre, and my driving instructor said, you can have me here for the results or not. And I was like, yeah, of course I want you there to be for the results. So when I got back, the driving instructor comes up to my car. The examiner does not talk to me, right? He comes to the window and he goes, yeah, you failed. Bear in mind, I've taken my seatbelt off at this point. I'm pissed off. I just want to get out of the car and tell this man to go fuck himself. And he literally lied to my driving instructor. And he was like, so I had to emergency brake. And I literally turned around and I was like, no, you fucking didn't. And he was like, well, I said, no, you never had to emergency brake. I emergency stopped. And then he looked at my driving instructor and looked at me, and he was like, you didn't check the rear view mirror. And I was like, what? You didn't ask me to do an emergency stop. I had to do an emergency stop. Like, what I did was not unsafe. Like, honestly, I think when it got to that part of the conversation, I couldn't actually fit out everything I wanted to say. Like, what I wanted to say was, I just saved your fucking life, you prick. But all I said was, no, I had to emergency stop. What I did wasn't unsafe. You never had to touch a pedal. That's not the reason that, you failed me. You failed me because I didn't check the rear view mirror. And he said, well, they are the requirements of an emergency stop, which, I'm fully aware of, except it was actually an emergency. It wasn't a practice. Like, I can't just, if you was about to have a car crash, do you really think you're going to check the rear view fucking mirror to save your life? No. You check what's in front of you and you fucking stop. All it takes is you to look through that mirror and then look back out the window. Within those split seconds, you could have crashed. Like, what I did is just prevented that, The car that was doing that manoeuvre was just going too fast. Both of us could have emergency stopped, but both of us could have kept going, and I'm the one that chose to stop. Anyway, my driving instructor was like, do you want to drive home? No, I don't. So, two of my other friends, one of my work friends and one of my other friends, actually did the driving test, hours before me. One of them passed, one of them failed. So, that was a bit of the rub in the face when one of them passed. I was happy for her, to be fair. She'd been learning a bit longer than me. And so had the other one. But both of us that failed, funnily enough, had the same driving examiner. How funny is that? Coincidence? I think not. Anyway, so I didn't drive for about 6 months, maybe. And then, oh my God, I didn't even talk about when I did my theory. God. So the first time I did my theory, I'll come back to when I did my second driving test in a bit, but when I did my theory, the first time I failed, and it was not nice. I was by myself. It was pretty emotional, to be honest, because when I failed, I actually called everybody I knew and nobody answered the phone. Like, I know that sounds really stupid and really sad, but like, imagine you failed and you don't want to cry, so you just thought you would call someone that you thought gave a shit about you, and literally no one answered. I must have called like 6 people. Anyway, so a quick rundown of how a theory test works. You have a practical side. Not practical. Duh. You've got a test side, like multiple choice questions. And then you have a hazard perception side, which is, you know, like a virtual version of practical. So you are just literally identifying hazards. So you can actually get the official DVLA app. I had 2 apps, one you paid for, one you didn't. I didn't know about the one you paid for ages. It was only like a month or 2 before my test I actually found it. This is before I failed the first one. So the multiple choice questions, all of these things are on the actual app, which is really handy. And a friend of mine actually gave me the highway code book, so I had a hell of a lot of practice. I actually remember one of the questions I got wrong, and I knew I got it wrong as well, like when I failed. But anyway, you walk into another kind of hospital looking room, like a waiting room. You put all your stuff in a locker, you give them your ID, they check it's you, you go in, and you've got like almost like these COVID screens. You have like these screens either side of a computer, you have a headset on, and like big fat cameras above you, which it seems weird, but I guess it prevents people cheating. Don't know how you would cheat though, because how can you have the whole highway code on you as a possession? But anyway, you have a timer. To be fair, you have more than enough time to do the test. Like, I finished way before. And I remember one of the things I got wrong was the sign for a ring road. And I had 2 questions about it as well. First of all, I have no idea what a ring road is. I still don't now. And I've been driving for years. But it was like literally 4 pictures of the letter R in a box, like a rectangular sized box. And that's the sign of a ring road. And it was like, which colours are the right sign for a ring road? And I was like, fuck knows, got that one wrong. And the other one was something else relevant to a ring road. I got that one wrong. I only got, I think it was like 4 questions away from passing on that test wrong. Or it was 4 questions I can't remember. But I definitely didn't pass, alright? Second time I did it, I passed. I did really well on the second one. So I knew that I had to pass my test, like my actual practical test, as soon as possible. So once I passed my theory test, I actually thought, okay, maybe I should get my driving test done. Failed my driving test. I think I did that within like 3 months. But that's because the Q's weren't as bad back then. And then about a year later, I stopped having my tantrum about failing because, as you heard about 5 minutes ago, it definitely weren't my fault. But anyway, agree to disagree. J versus the DVLA, whatevs. I actually went down the route of, what's it called? I actually got in contact with a company who does intensive courses, and then it was actually lucky that I spoke to my mum at the time, that she told me that her old foster carer was a driving instructor. So I got in contact with him and he offered me an intensive course. So I was going to do 10 lessons with him. I did a trial lesson first. As a top tip, always do that, because you never know whether someone is confident as an instructor as well. So I did my, first hour free. He was happy with how I drove. And I just said, I just need basically a recap and just get my test passed. So I spent like 3 hours driving each lesson until my test. So I did like 3 long hour lessons with him. We drove literally for hours. We'd actually have a break, just sit and chat about my mum as a kid, because I used to be her foster parent, and it was quite chilled, really. He was more than happy with my driving. Like, he would take me through all the routes, and we'd have it done within an hour and a half. So we would just, drive long distance and stuff, and do things that wasn't necessary for the test, but just to help me out when it come to like long distance driving. I even spoke about the other steps of driving you can take. You can actually do other courses that, help you learn how to drive on motorways and more complex driving as such. But I only wanted to do that because I was told that it positively affects your insurance. Turns out, according to the driving instructor, that's not true. It probably only helps you if you are a young driver, but I wasn't planning on getting a car straight away, and, I was 18, so I wasn't 17, so he just said, it probably won't positively affect it that much. You can still legally drive on a motorway once you've passed your test and stuff. It's only learners that can't. I passed my test. I was well happy about it, and then, I thought I would just add in some of the possible manoeuvres you can be taught. So you used to be taught that you have to reverse around a corner. I don't think you actually do get tested on that anymore, but parallel parking was something that I had in my test. And what was the other one? I don't know, but you can get things like emergency stops, parallel parking, reverse around the corner, and bay parking. But I think I only had parallel parking, which I actually used to find really easy. I think I practice it a lot less now, so it's not as easy. But back then, I used to find bay parking harder. I can only reverse park. I don't know why. I find it weird when people park forwards. Everyone's just has their own preferences of how they drive. Now, something I would advise, because I spent like nearly $4,000 on learning how to drive, including, the theory side of it as well, because I had so many lessons and quite a few instructors. I think I had about 4. It does end up adding up, and it's even more expensive now than it used to be back then. I think the cheapest driving lesson I ever had was £23 or £23.50, something like that. The tests are like, when I did my test, the theory was, I think, 30. Oh no, it was about 35. I think the theory got cheaper, and the practical course was something like 65 at the time. So doing a couple of tests, failing them, it does demotivate you to drive when it costs a lot and you're failing. But I guess that's just the same with any education or any license as such. Something I would advise though is, if you're in the financial position to be able to do this, get a car of your own. Make sure it's a decent car, but not too new. You want something where it's old enough that you can still feel the car, like the clutch and stuff, and that you can, something like a Ford or a Fiesta, something I wish I had way before the 3 shitty cars I had. They're really reliable. Even the old versions, most people I knew got them when they passed because they were just such good cars. And with those, they're really good to learn in. They're really cheap to run on insurance. And if you have someone that's over the age of 21 and been driving for 3 years, they can supervise you while you learn how to drive. And that will save you so much money on lessons. It's crazy. Get those apps, get your practice in for the theory. And if you do have someone that can be there while you're learning to drive, a friend of mine actually had her dad fit an extra set of pedals so that he could teach her to drive. So that, if anything ever happened, he could still emergency stop the car. I don't think that's a necessity. It's not a legal requirement, but if it makes you feel more comfortable and saving on lessons, then go for it. Definitely. Now, I did actually ask my Instagram followers what they would like me to cover in this topic. So I told you all this week what I'm covering. So one person said what bills are to watch out for. I think they probably thought I meant the confession box of the week, but I'll address that here. So, bills to watch out for when you're driving. If you're going to get a car that's older, I would say nothing more than 10 years old. I've had multiple cars now. Some of them have been more than 10 years old. The one I've got right now is something like 12, 13 years old. Anything more than that, is definitely going to be in the garage every month. I'm speaking from experience. I cannot stress this enough. Make sure that you're getting it from like a trusted garage, or at least spending a couple grand, just because you probably will be spending a fortune on it, unless it's something like a Fiesta. I went for a Fiesta for my third car just because I know if it was a bag of shit, the parts are cheap, they're easy to get, and they don't tend to break as often as other cars. So far, it hasn't had to go to the garage at all. It only went for an MOT a few months ago and a service, and it was completely fine. Maybe like one or two things just needed like repairing, but I haven't had to change my tyres yet. Oh my god. I actually made a TikTok about what I'm going to say, but I only learnt recently, girls, are you listening? I only learnt recently that you're supposed to fill up the air in your tyres, well, check your tyres every like week or two. Why did nobody tell me that? I have gone months, maybe even a year without checking. I only ever get the garage to check. I do thousands of miles. Okay, hundreds of miles, not thousands. That's a massive exaggeration. I do tons and tons of miles all the time and I never check. And then when I checked the other day, because I've never been able to do it, I'm that bad, right, that with my old car, I couldn't do my tyres and they were really bad. And I got my friend who was 9 months pregnant to come do them for me. That's how desperately bad I was at it. But the other day, I figured it out and it still needed pumping. And I made a TikTok about it. I said something like, if you don't know how to pump up your tyres, you have daddy issues and mummy issues. And I mean, am I wrong though? I'm just saying. Just saying. But yeah, back to the actual question. Bills to watch out for. So I always say to everybody, change your insurance company for your car every single year. This is because the premium always goes up. They will never be able to match the price that another insurance provider is offering. So every year, a month before your annual renewal, go on to Compare the Market or Go Compare and put all your car details in, your situation, like how many miles a year. If you're not sure, if you're doing like less than 20 miles a day, put something like 8,000 or less in. And always say it's like parked on a driveway and stuff, just because more times than not it will be. And if you say it's like miles away from your house, obviously it's more likely to get broken into, so your insurance premium will be higher. Obviously make sure that you do what's best for you and cover the things you need to cover, but I like to try and weave my way in and out of things sometimes. But anyway, so recently, well, on my new car insurance, I changed provider, and a bill I would say to watch out for is make sure you do everything the insurance companies tell you to do. So, when I changed, they said, oh, we need proof of your no claims discount. I'm like, yeah, no problem. Tried to get it, but I paid 30 days before just to make it a lot cheaper. And they were like, yeah, that's fine. And they were like, okay, send your no claims bonus. So I contacted my old insurance and they said, we can't give you a no claims bonus until your month's up. So I was like, okay, got to month's up. I obviously told the other providers and they obviously hassling me. And they were like, yeah, okay, we'll give you 28 days after that. So on the 30th day of the month, I was like, to the old insurance, I really need that no claims bonus. And they said, it'll be on your online portal. I couldn't log in because our policy had ended. And they said, okay, it's fine, we'll email it to you. So I'm waiting for this email for so long, I've almost forgotten about it. I called them up and they said, oh yeah, we'll get it over to you. And, you know, where I'm just so busy, I completely forgot. So, like, I completely forgot again that they hadn't sent it over. And I do every now and again check for my emails. So then, plot twist, these motherfuckers emailed me and were like, your insurance is going up by like $1,000. I'm like, what the fuck? Because I didn't give them the no claims bonus. So I called them, they didn't answer. So I called my old insurance and I just said, look, I asked for it multiple times and they said, we've emailed you it. And I said, I've looked in my junk folder, I've looked in all my emails, you definitely haven't. I assumed that you sent it to them because of the email they sent to me, that they'd been in contact with you. And they said, okay, don't worry, we'll send it over, I'm really sorry. they'll also send it to the other insurance company for me. So I sent them an email, and I was just like, as in the new company, I was like, I've done all this, I've sent my no claims bonus, please don't charge me an extra £1,000. I was like, I'm one of like those Karens over email. I was like, I do not give you permission to take money out of my account, actually, because if they take it out of my account, I can call the bank and get it back. But yeah, so I'll let you know within the next few weeks whether they take the money out of my account. I hope they fucking don't, because there's no money there anyway. But yeah. So yeah, make sure you always do everything insurance say. Pay your yearly tax. You can pay it monthly or yearly. And if there are other routes to get in cars. So obviously I've given the best advice for myself, and what I've done and what I've learnt from and what I wish I could have done, should have done, didn't, Some people do prefer to go through car finance. I mean, obviously there's a lot of perks to that, so it will help build your credit. It will, prove you can borrow large sums of money. You'll probably get a brand new car. Usually it's under warranty. There's a lot of perks, but people like me are fucking broke, so finance ain't an option. To get a car finance, you have to go for a credit check. So if you have no credit, just make sure that, you have something from the past. So if you've ever paid a phone bill or something like that, that does contribute, just because if you have no credit and you have a credit check and you fail because you've never had any sort of credit, it can actually make your credit score go down. But yeah, if you've got any questions about that, just let me know. And then the other person that replied something that wasn't really what I meant. However, they said, what's your dream garage, your daily weekend toy, supercar, etc. To be honest, I don't have a dream garage. I don't. If I was rich, I would have a Lamborghini. But because I'm not rich, I want a Mini Cooper S, and I want it, and I don't have it because they are the worst cars ever, mechanically. Like, obviously I've had my cars recovered in the past many times. So, even the AA man said, don't get a Mini Cooper S. I pick up one of them at least once a week, minimum. Usually more. I was like, oh, I have heard they're bad, but I didn't know they were that bad. So yeah, that is actually my dream car if I wasn't rich. I mean, they are still quite dear, but it's a bit more affordable for my dreams. But yeah, apparently they're not very good mechanically, so I'll just have to wait until I can afford to fix it every month. You know what I mean? Nothing I ain't done before. And also, I follow this girl on Instagram called Supercar Blondie, and she basically just showcases and shows off all these amazing supercars, and I'm just so jealous of her job. I'm just like, oh my god, these cars are so techy and impressive, and I fucking love them. And since I've been doing this new job, this driving job, I have become an automatic car lover. I know I always shit on it before, but being in traffic, nothing beats an automatic car. And I don't know, recently I've been driving this Ford Cougar, and I actually have become in love with it. I mean, it is the S1, but still, it's just so powerful, and I fucking love driving it. I feel like a boss. And then the other day, I drove a Land Rover, and I didn't like it. I mean, a Range Rover, not a Land Rover. But I didn't like it. I was just like, this is just, like, too big. Like, why do I feel like I'm on a sofa? Like a leather sofa. I don't know. It's just too big. Like, I wouldn't not drive it, but I wouldn't own it. You know what I mean? And that's like everyone's like bad bitch car, but I just didn't love it that much. I thought it looked, I don't know. I know. Also, Evie took a picture of me in it, and I looked very small. So I was like, no, I don't look like a boss bitch. I look like a child. But yeah, so I'm going to get into this week's Jay's voicemail. As you know, this is the part of the pod where people message in or they reply to the Instagram story, which is @podcast.j. You can either just directly message me or wait for the Instagram post to come up. It'll be on my story, and I just ask people to give me a confession, ask me a question, or ask me for any advice, or provide me with any advice. Anything you'd love to air. It's all anonymous unless you put your name at the end of the message. So someone said, what are your recent Netflix recommendations? Okay, so this week I watched the Jimmy Savile documentary. What in the fuck is that all about? I mean, when it all come out, I was like, oh my god, this is so bad. Like, this is when, you know, I really started to, I was in like secondary school, so I was obviously like not 100% aware of how, like, what paedophilia was and all that stuff. Like, I was always knew kind of about it, but you learnt a lot about it at that time. And yeah, it was so much worse than I thought. Why is this man best friends with the fucking Prime Minister, and why is he the royal family's official advisor? What the fuck is that all about? There's so much about it that's so fucking wrong. Like, there was like a clip in the documentary, and he holds up this picture, and there's this girl next to him, in a hospital bed, completely flat, looks paralysed, like she can't even lift her head right, like you can't even see her, and it's being videoed, like, for the BBC, and he goes like to the camera, oh, what did I ever do to you for you to paint a picture of me like that? And you can just hear the pain in her voice, and she just goes, everything. And honestly, it broke my heart. Like, tears started swelling up. I was like, oh my god. Like, it was so bad. And he told everybody in the world what he was like. And just nobody took him seriously. Like, he was just... Why was this man... Oh, I can't get into it too much, but that's something you should go and watch. It's quite long. I would say it's a series, but it's more like 2 really long episodes. But yeah, that's something I watched recently that I definitely recommend watching. It's just it shows like all the good he did to cover up all the bad he did. Like, it's just insane. I got another confession. So this confession is actually from one of my friends. He actually gave me this confession a while ago, but I'm just playing catch up on the confessions. So my friend said that once he shit himself doing the paper round as a kid. Moment of silence for this poor man. I'm just saying, that is absolutely so sad. It's never happened to me, but there's a lesson to be learnt here, because that's absolutely fucking hilarious. Definitely go to the toilet before you do anything. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but why is it whenever I finish work, or whenever you go into a changing room and you want to try on clothing, you just always really need a wee? Is that just me? Also, one time I went to the sunbed and I was so desperate for a pee that I definitely nearly pissed myself on the sunbed. Like, I asked them before I went in, oh, do you have a toilet? And they said no. And I was like, oh, okay, don't worry. I'm not desperate. It'll only take me 10 minutes, you know? Went for a sunbed, and on the last minute I was dying for a pee. Like, my belly, I looked pregnant where my bladder was full. Like, it was disgusting. But yeah, it was pretty bad. That's how I relate to that. But that was a really funny story. So thank you so much for sharing that. Definitely go to the toilet before you start your paper round. And then someone asked me, what's the funniest thing that's happened to you recently? Oh my god. So this week, Alex got a call to have an interview on the radio. Obviously, because he's doing really well. So he was having a call, and they were like asking him about his success, how it feels. And they were like, oh, you're above Machine Gun Kelly in the charts right now. And he said the funniest thing, but he's just like a natural comedian. So he comes out with really funny things. And when he's like trying to like be a comedian, he like forgets to think before he says something sometimes. And honestly, that is when the funniest things come out of his mouth. Because they were like, oh, you're above Machine Gun Kelly. And he, you know, like, he'd be like, oh my god, no way. He was like, oh, I guess I have to send for Eminem now. And it was fucking hilarious. I mean, I didn't hear him live doing it. Like, he's a bit like me. Like, I can't have him in the room while I'm doing the podcast. Like, I have to tell him, he's in the other room right now with headphones on. And I'm like, you can't hear me because I cringe because I'm talking to literally myself. So, it's cringy. And he did the same thing when he had the call with the radio. He just, like, shut the door, went in another room, and I was just scrolling through TikTok. And I wait for him to tell me about it afterwards. And he come in and he was like, oh my God, I just cringed so bad. And I was like, what happened? He told me, and it was just so funny because I just thought nobody else would go on the radio and say something funny. You know, they'd just be like, oh, thanks, mate. And it's like, it's not as fun. He's got a fucking cracking personality, so I hope everybody heard it because that was so funny. But that's got to be the funniest thing that's happened this week recently. But yeah, that's it for today's confessions, questions, and anything you'd like advice on Jay's voicemail. Thank you so much for listening today. I really appreciate it. And anything you'd like reference on this week. So to find my small business is at Burn My Mood, or I've got a website www.burnmymood.co.uk. If you're not already, subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you listen on. I'm not sure if it makes a difference, but I'd love to find out. So please do so. What should I talk about next week? I mean, it's Easter, so I've got a few days off. Alex has got a massive show on Saturday, but other than that, I'm free. So who wants to be interviewed for the podcast? Just please note, you will be on TikTok Live, just because that's going to be the thing for when I do these episodes, just because I don't really want to do video editing. And I feel like if it's live, it's like people watching a bit of live TV, innit? And it could possibly help my TikTok grow. Or no one will watch. Who knows? Not me. I mean, my house isn't that pretty looking, so probably no one will watch. But you never know. We could be a hit. We could be famous. Okay, maybe not famous. But it could do well. So just bear that in mind if you want to be a guest. I don't want to put you off, by the way. I just want to say, because, like, I imagine a lot of people that have said to me they want to be on the pod, but already I've had a couple of people say to me they don't want to be on TikTok Live. That's completely fine, but please just make sure you know it, because I'll be gutted if I try and record and you're like, I don't want to be on TikTok Live, because that's just how I want to do it, okay? Have the best day, have the best week, and I can't wait to hear from you next. See you later.